"Is there a expired cake I can take for my little girl?" asked the cleaner to another employee, but the millionaire saw everything. Subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. The sweltering heat of February turned the streets of downtown New York City into an oven. The asphalt melted under the relentless sun, and even inside the modern Vista Lapa business building, with its powerful air conditioning and mirrored glass facade, it was impossible to completely escape the scorching temperature that dominated the city. The 20-story building stood majestically in the revitalized waterfront area, a symbol of economic growth that brutally contrasted with the communities spreading across the nearby hills. Emily Johnson, 29, was methodically cleaning the Italian marble floor of the lobby, moving the mop with precise and economical movements that spoke of years of experience. Her brown hair was tied up in a practical bun, with a few rebellious strands sticking to her sweaty forehead. The navy blue uniform, impeccably clean despite showing signs of wear at the seams, contrasted with her tanned skin that glowed under the LED lights of the lobby. She had that understated and authentic beauty of working women. Expressive brown eyes, a smile that lit up her face when it appeared, and a dignified posture that no adversity had managed to break. The late afternoon rush was intense. Executives in expensive suits hurried past, loudly discussing million-dollar contracts and meetings in Chicago. Elegant women in high heels crossed the lobby as if walking down a runway, their designer bags swaying in rhythm with their confident strides. No one noticed the woman who kept that environment immaculate, as if she were part of the decor. Emily checked the digital clock on the wall. 4:47 p.m. In just over an hour, her workday would end, and she would rush to catch 2 buses to Brooklyn, where her daughter Lily was waiting for her at Mrs. Thompson's house, the retired neighbor who took care of the girl in exchange for a little help with her monthly shopping. Today was special. Lily was turning 6, and Emily had promised a party, even knowing that the money barely covered the essentials. The financial reality was cruel. The salary of a general services assistant barely covered the rent of the small 2-room house, basic bills, and food. This month, a higher electricity bill had consumed the little she could save. There was no money for cake, a gift, or any other treat a child deserved on her birthday. Emily had spent the previous night awake, trying to find a solution. It was then that her steps led her to the small cafe operating on the ground floor of the building. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the sweet aroma of pastries, creating a cozy atmosphere that contrasted with the corporate coldness of the rest of the building. Marcia, the 45-year-old cashier with grey hair and a maternal smile, was organizing the sweets in the display case when she saw Emily approaching hesitantly. "Hi, Emily. How are you, dear?" Marcia asked, immediately noticing her colleague's tense expression. Emily looked around, checking if anyone was nearby. Her voice came out almost in a whisper, laden with shame and desperation. "Marcia, please, do you have any expired cake I could take for my daughter? Today is Lily's birthday and I—" Her voice faltered. Emily bit her lower lip, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. Her hands, calloused from hard work, trembled slightly as she clutched the handle of her worn synthetic leather bag. "Oh my God, Emily!" Marcia exclaimed softly, her heart tightening. "Of course, dear. Let me see what I have here." What neither of them knew was that, on the other side of the mirrored glass wall separating the cafe from one of the administrative offices, someone had heard every word of that conversation. Alfredo Johnson, 45, was on one of his routine inspections of the building when he decided to stop and assess the cafe's activity. Alfredo was an imposing figure. Tall, broad-shouldered, with perfectly styled grey hair and dark eyes that usually conveyed a calculated coldness. He wore an impeccable Italian suit, genuine leather shoes, and a Swiss watch that cost more than the annual salary of many employees. His presence commanded equal measures of respect and fear in the corporate hallways. He was known for closing million-dollar deals without blinking and firing employees with the same ease with which he discarded papers in the trash. But at that moment, something different happened. Upon hearing Emily's desperate request, Alfredo felt a strange pang in his chest, a sensation he hadn't experienced in years. His hands, accustomed to commanding and controlling, involuntarily clenched as he watched the scene through the glass. "It's your princess's birthday, right?" Marcia said affectionately, rummaging through the sweets. "Look, I have this chocolate cake that was left over from yesterday. It's not bad, just a little dry around the edges." Emily took the small slice wrapped in a napkin as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. "Thank you so much, Marcia. I will make sure to return this to you." "Don't mention it, dear. Every child deserves a party on their birthday." Alfredo continued to watch as Emily carefully stored the cake in her bag and headed to the locker rooms to change. There was something about that woman that intrigued him, an unshakable dignity even in the face of humiliation, a maternal love that shone through in every gesture. He, who had lost touch with humanity amid spreadsheets and contracts, found himself questioning when was the last time he had witnessed such a pure and desperate act of love. When Emily left the building, Alfredo made an impulsive decision that would change not only his life, but the fate of 3 people. He grabbed the keys to his imported black luxury SUV from the private parking lot and, keeping a safe distance, began to follow the woman who had just shaken the foundations of his seemingly perfect world. The bus was empty. The 298 bus rattled through the pothole-ridden streets, while Emily clutched the metal of the seat, carefully protecting the bag that held a small piece of cake. The vehicle was packed during rush hour, and the heat inside was stifling. Domestic workers, construction workers, street vendors, and students squeezed into the cramped space, all exuding the fatigue of another day, fighting for survival in New York City. Emily gazed through the fogged window at the landscape that gradually changed as the bus moved away from the south side and downtown towards the suburbs. The modern glass buildings gave way to older constructions, simple houses, small shops with colorful signs and facades worn by time. It was like crossing 2 different worlds within the same city. 15 meters away, Alfred followed the bus in his luxury SUV with icy air conditioning, ambient sound, and climate-controlled leather seats. For the first time in years, he was paying real attention to a route he had never taken, his hands accustomed to the steering wheel of imported cars. On expressways, now navigated narrow streets where children played on the sidewalks and elderly ladies chatted on their porches. "What the hell am I doing?" he murmured to himself, but he couldn't turn back. There was something magnetic about the situation that pulled him forward, as if he were being guided by a force greater than his business logic. The first bus stopped at the Queen's terminal, and Emily got off with dozens of other passengers. The movement was intense. Vendors shouting deals, loud music spilling out from small shops, the smell of fried pastries mingling with the aroma of cheap perfumes from street vendors. She quickly walked to the stop, where she would catch the second bus, checking again to ensure the cake was secure in her bag. Alfred parked the car at a corner, observing from a distance. This was a completely foreign universe to him. For years, his life had been limited to routes between Ipanema, Barra da Tijuca, and downtown. The suburbs were just numbers in sales reports or abstract locations on urban development maps. Now, seeing the people up close, their simple clothes, genuine smiles, the natural solidarity among neighbors, he began to understand that he had lost touch with something fundamental about the human experience. The second bus took 20 minutes to arrive. When it finally appeared, it was already packed. Emily managed to squeeze between passengers, standing and swaying with the movement of the vehicle while mentally counting the money left in her wallet. Every cent was calculated. Fare for the return trip the next day, bread for the morning coffee, maybe a yogurt for Lily. The journey to Brooklyn lasted another 40 minutes. The sun was beginning to set when Emily got off on Domingos Lopes Street, a cobblestone road lined with small houses, most painted in vibrant colors, trying to mask the simplicity of the construction. Alfred stopped the SUV a few blocks back, feeling completely out of place in this environment. Emily's house was in the middle of a row of attached buildings. It was a small two-room structure with a tiny porch in front, where a few pots with hardy plants tried to bloom despite the lack of sunlight. The light blue paint on the walls was faded, and the iron gate needed a fresh coat of paint, but everything was impeccably clean and organized. "Mommy!" shouted a high-pitched, crystal-clear voice. Lily ran towards her mother with the energy typical of a 6-year-old. She was a beautiful girl, with curly hair cascading over her shoulders, large expressive eyes like her mother's, and a smile that lit up her entire face. She wore a simple cotton dress that was already a bit tight, a sign that she had grown since Emily bought it. "Hi, my love." Emily bent down to hug her daughter, feeling her heart tighten with emotion and guilt. "How was your day? Did Mrs. Thompson take good care of you?" "I did, my dear," replied Mrs. Thompson, a 67-year-old woman who appeared at the door of the neighboring house. She had white hair tied in a low bun, glasses hanging by a chain around her neck, and the warm smile of someone who had raised 8 children. "Lily is an angel. She spent the whole day helping make chocolate truffles for the party." "Chocolate truffles?" Emily looked surprised at her daughter. "Mrs. Thompson said every birthday party needs chocolate truffles." Lily clapped excitedly, and Mr. Smith brought soda, and Mrs. Johnson made colorful gelatin. Alfred, who had left the car at the corner and approached on foot, keeping hidden behind a tree, watched the scene with growing fascination. Around the small house, neighbors began to appear with simple contributions for the party. A 2-liter bottle of soda, a plate of homemade cookies, colorful disposable cups, a small box of chocolates. Mr. Smith, the retired man who lived 3 houses down, arrived carrying a portable speaker. "For the princess's party music," he announced proudly. Mrs. Johnson, a robust woman in her 50s, brought a simple cornmeal cake. "I know you must have arranged for the cake, Emily, but it's always good to have options." Emily felt her eyes welling up. Amid so much simplicity, there was a human richness she had never experienced elsewhere. Those people who barely had enough for themselves were willing to share the little they had to make a child happy. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered, her voice choked. "Don't mention it, dear," said Mrs. Thompson, wrapping her arm around Emily's shoulders. "Children are the joy of everyone. And Lily is special. Everyone here knows that." The backyard had been transformed into a small party hall. Plastic chairs formed an irregular circle, and a string with colorful paper flags had been stretched between the... In the backyard, trees surrounded an improvised table made from a board resting on 2 sawhorses, displaying the pastries and snacks brought by the neighbors. Lily ran back and forth, greeting each arriving guest with enthusiastic hugs. There was a purity in her joy that was contagious to everyone around. She didn't notice that the gifts were simple or that the party was modest. To her, it was perfect. She was surrounded by people who loved her. Alex, still hidden, felt something strange happening in his chest. He hadn't attended a party where people genuinely enjoyed themselves in years. His social events were calculated performances, networking disguised as celebration, empty conversations about the stock market and politics. There, in that simple backyard, there was something he had lost long ago: authenticity. As night fell and the first stars appeared in the sky, someone lit an improvised bonfire in an old can. The orange glow of the flames danced on smiling faces, creating a magical atmosphere. Lily, wearing a golden paper crown made by Mrs. Johnson, was radiant. "Now it's time for the birthday song," announced Mrs. Thompson. Emily brought out the small cake she had managed to get from the cafe, along with a cornmeal cake from a neighbour. They placed 6 colourful candles on the larger cake, and everyone gathered around singing the birthday song in a tuneless but heartfelt chorus. Lily closed her eyes tightly, made a silent wish, and blew out the candles all at once. Everyone cheered and shouted, "Hooray!" as she smiled with all the happiness in the world. In that moment, observing that simple yet love-filled celebration, Alex understood that he had spent decades chasing happiness in the wrong places. True joy was right there, in those unpretentious gestures, in that unconditional love, in that community that supported each other despite having so little. He stayed there until the party ended, and everyone said goodbye with warm hugs. Only then did he return to his car, completely transformed by everything he had witnessed. The drive back to Manhattan never felt so long or so lonely. In his duplex penthouse in Manhattan, Alex walked restlessly through the 1,600-square-foot living room with a panoramic view of the ocean. The apartment was a work of art in minimalist decor, Italian designer furniture, contemporary art on the walls, Carrara, marble flooring reflecting strategically placed lights. Everything was impeccable, everything expensive, everything absolutely void of life. It was 2 a.m. and he couldn't sleep. The image of the party in Brooklyn replayed in his mind like a movie on loop. Lily blowing out the candles, Emily's genuine smile, the spontaneous generosity of the neighbors, all of it contrasted brutally with his golden but sterile reality. He poured himself a 25-year-old scotch, sat in the leather armchair that cost more than Emily's annual salary, and looked out at the ocean through the glass wall. How many parties had he thrown in that apartment? Dozens, hundreds perhaps. Executives, politicians, socialites, all drinking French champagne, eating sophisticated canapés and talking business. But none of those gatherings had brought a fraction of the true joy he had witnessed that night. "What the hell is happening to me?" he murmured, running his hand through his greying hair. The next day, Alex arrived early at the office. He couldn't concentrate on the financial reports spread across the imported mahogany desk. Jake Miller, his personal assistant for 8 years, immediately noticed the change in his boss's demeanor. "Mr. Duarte, are you okay? You seem distant today," Jake observed. A 35-year-old man, slim, always impeccably dressed, with an almost robotic efficiency that made him indispensable. "I'm great, Jake. Just thinking about new projects," Alex replied, averting his gaze. But it wasn't true. All morning, he found himself looking for excuses to go downstairs. Around 10 o'clock, he pretended to conduct a routine inspection of the security systems. At 11, he claimed he was checking the quality of the cleaning services. By noon, he invented a necessary conversation with the building management. Emily was working diligently, cleaning the glass of the internal facade with precise movements. She wore the same navy blue uniform, but today there was something different about her posture, a subtle lightness, as if the party from the night before still echoed in her spirit. "Good morning," Alex said, approaching her for the first time. Emily turned, surprised. She immediately recognized the building owner. All the staff knew who Alex Duarte was, although few had ever spoken to him directly. "Good morning, sir," she replied nervously, interrupting her work. "Is there a problem with the cleaning?" No, on the contrary. I just wanted to congratulate you on the excellent work." Alex felt ridiculous. In decades of business life, he had never felt so awkward talking to someone. "Thank you, Mr. Duarte." Emily tensed even more. In her experience, when bosses appeared to praise, it usually meant layoffs or increased responsibilities without a pay raise. "How was your daughter's birthday?" The question slipped out before Alex could control himself. Emily's eyes widened, completely surprised. How did he know about Lily's birthday? It was very good, sir. Thank you for asking. How old did she turn? 6 years old. Emily's voice softened automatically when she spoke about her daughter. She must be very smart and beautiful like her mother. The comment made Emily blush and instinctively step back. Excuse me, sir, I need to finish my work. Of course. Sorry to bother you. Alex stepped away but spent the rest of the afternoon thinking about that conversation. There was something in Emily's natural dignity that fascinated him. She didn't seem interested in impressing him or gaining favors, unlike so many people who circulated in his world. In the following days, a strange routine developed. Alex always found reasons to walk through the floors where Emily worked. He discovered that he arrived promptly at 7 in the morning, took a 15-minute break for coffee and pastries at 10, quickly had a sandwich he brought from home at noon, and left exactly at 5 in the afternoon. You've been very interested in the basic operations of the building lately, Jake commented during a meeting, using the calculated tone he adopted when he suspected something. It's important to know all aspects of the business, Jake, from the penthouse to the basement. Of course, sir, but it might be more efficient to delegate these checks to the facilities supervisor. Alex looked at him coldly. I decide how to manage my time and my company. Jake backed off, but made a mental note. In 8 years working for Alex Duarte, he had never seen him act so human. This warranted investigation. On Friday of that week, Alex mustered the courage for a more direct approach. He waited for Emily in the parking lot at quitting time. Emily, can I talk to you for a minute? She stopped, gripping the handle of her bag tightly. Yes, sir. I would like to get to know the employees of the company better. Perhaps we could talk a little more informally. How about grabbing a coffee? The proposal caught Emily completely off guard. Mr. Duarte, I don't think that's appropriate. Please, call me Alex. And why wouldn't it be appropriate? We're just two people talking, because you are the owner of the company, and I am just a cleaner. The response came with a brutal honesty that left Alex momentarily speechless. You are not just anything. You are a mother, a worker, a person, and I would like to get to know you better. Emily studied his face, searching for signs of insincerity or ulterior motives. What she saw confused her even more. There was something genuine in those dark eyes, a vulnerability that didn't match the image of the ruthless businessman. I need to pick up my daughter, she finally said. Can I give you a ride? No! The answer came out quicker and firmer than she intended. I'm sorry, sir. It's just, I prefer to keep work and personal life separate. Alex nodded understandingly, but inside he felt a strange frustration. He was used to getting everything he wanted through money, influence, or authority, but here was a woman who could not be bought, impressed, or intimidated. It was uncharted territory for him. I understand, but the offer stands. Whenever you want to talk about anything. Emily quickly nodded and headed to the bus stop. Alex stood there, watching her walk away. For the first time in decades, someone had said no to him so naturally and firmly. That night, alone in his penthouse, Alex found himself researching Brooklyn on Google Earth. He located the street where Emily lived, observing the neighborhood through satellite images. It was a completely different world from his. Small houses, narrow streets, community life. A place where people knew each other by name, where children played in the street, where neighbors helped one another. He was beginning to understand that his life, despite all the luxury and power, was profoundly poor in things that truly mattered. And for the first time, he desperately wanted to be part of something real, even if it meant questioning everything he had built up to that point. On the other side of the city, Emily was putting Lily to sleep, softly humming a lullaby. The girl was lovingly holding a small cloth doll she had received from Mrs. Thompson. "Mummy, is that handsome man who talked to you today nice?" asked Lily, with the innocent curiosity of children. "What handsome man, sweetheart?" "I saw him through the window when you were leaving. He looked sad." Emily was quiet for a moment. Was Alex Duarte really sad? And why did that bother her so much? March arrived with the characteristic rains of autumn, but that year nature seemed to have completely lost control. For an entire week, the sky poured water, as if it wanted to wash the whole city away. The clogged drains couldn't handle the volume, and the streets of Brooklyn turned into rushing rivers that carried everything in their path. Emily woke up in the early hours of Thursday to the deafening sound of rain on the metal roof. She turned on the light and realized that water had already invaded the small house, forming a layer of almost 10 centimeters that reflected the ceiling lamp. Lily was sleeping soundly, oblivious to the chaos that had set in. "My God!" she whispered, jumping out of bed and stepping into the cold water that had already soaked the living room carpet. Running to her daughter's room, Emily gently woke her up. "Lily, my love, you need to wake up. We have to get out of here." "Why, Mommy, it's still dark," complained the girl, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "The house is flooded, Princess. We're going to Aunt Thompson's house until the water goes down." Quickly, Emily grabbed some dry clothes and important documents, packing everything into a plastic backpack. She put on the rain boots she always kept handy for emergencies like this. Unfortunately, it wasn't the first flood they had faced. The street was unrecognizable. The water was rushing forcefully, carrying trash, tree branches, and even an old refrigerator that someone had left on the sidewalk. Mrs. Thompson was already at her door, using a flashlight to guide the neighbors. "Emily! Lily! Come here, girls! It's dry here!" the lady shouted, extending her hands to help them. The entire neighborhood had taken refuge in Mrs. Thompson's house, which was a few feet higher than the others. Mr. Smith, Mrs. Johnson, 3 more families with small children, all huddled in the small living room, sharing blankets and dividing the little hot coffee they managed to prepare. "It will pass, Emily," consoled Mrs. Johnson, putting her arm around the young woman's shoulders. "It always passes. We help each other, and everything will be fine." But Emily looked out the window and saw her small house being devastated by the water. There was everything she had managed to build for herself and Lily, the simple furniture but cared for with love, her daughter's clothes, the books. Alex woke up to the television reporting on the flooding. Aerial images showed various neighborhoods submerged, people being rescued by firefighters, entire families who had lost everything. When the reporter mentioned Brooklyn among the hardest-hit areas, he felt his stomach tighten. "Jake!" he shouted to his assistant, who was already in the apartment organizing the day's schedule. "I need a list of all employees living in flooded areas." "Sir, that's HR's responsibility. Jake, don't question me. I want the list in 10 minutes. As Jake made the necessary calls, Alex watched the news with an anxiety he couldn't explain. When he finally confirmed that Emily Johnson lived on Main Street, a severely affected area, he didn't think twice. "Prepare a cleanup crew. A truck with equipment, a water pump, sanitation supplies, whatever is necessary," he ordered, already getting dressed. "For which client, sir?" "Employees of the company affected by the floods. It's a relief protocol I'm implementing." Jake frowned. In 8 years, he had never seen Alex show such concern for operational-level employees. But he obeyed the orders. By 9 in the morning, a small caravan of vehicles arrived in Brooklyn. Alex was in front, followed by a cleaning company truck, another with equipment, and a van with basic supplies. The contrast was striking. Clean, organized corporate vehicles on a street, still covered in mud and debris. Emily was in front of her house, wearing rubber boots and gloves, trying to remove the mud that had accumulated in the living room. Lily was playing in Mrs. Thompson's yard with other children, all turning the situation into a grand adventure. "Emily!" called Alex, getting out of the car. She turned around, completely surprised. "Mr. Johnson, what are you doing here?" "I came to help. It's a company protocol for employees affected by natural disasters." Emily looked suspiciously at the small entourage organizing on the street. "Protocol? I've never heard of that. It's new. I implemented it today." Alex couldn't lie well when it came to her. "Please, let us help." Before she could protest, the cleaning crew had already invaded the small house with water pumps, industrial vacuums, and chemical decontamination products. It was a military operation in efficiency. "This isn't necessary," Emily began. "It is necessary," Alex interrupted, rolling up the sleeves of his dress shirt. "Where can I help?" The image of the millionaire businessman on his knees in a simple house helping to remove soaked furniture was surreal. Mrs. Thompson watched from the window with wide eyes. "My God, who is that man?" she whispered to Mrs. Johnson. "He's Emily's boss, but I've never seen a boss get dirty like that." For 4 hours, Alex worked side by side with Emily. He carried furniture, helped separate what could be saved from what had to be discarded, and cleaned mud from the walls. His soft hands became dirty and scratched, his silk suit stained with mud, but he didn't seem to care for a second. Lily watched everything with curiosity, hiding behind Mrs. Thompson's skirt. "Auntie, why is that elegant guy helping my mom?" "I don't know, sweetheart, but he must be a good person." By late afternoon, the house was completely clean and decontaminated. The technicians ensured there was no risk of mold or bacteria. New furniture, simple but new, was brought in to replace what had been lost. Emily watched everything in silence, tears in her eyes. "I don't know how I'm going to pay for all this." "You're not going to pay anything. It's a company benefit," Alex replied, wiping the sweat from his forehead with the back of his dirty hand. "There's no benefit like that, Mr. Johnson. I'm not an idiot." He stopped, staring into those brown eyes that seemed to see through him. "You're right, there isn't. I made it up. There. Because I wanted to help you and your daughter." "Why? Why do you care about us?" Alex was silent for a long moment. How to explain that since the day of Lily's birthday party, his life had completely lost its meaning? How to say that for the first time in decades, he had found something worth more than money? "Because you reminded me of something I had forgotten," he finally said, with an honesty that surprised him. "You reminded me of what really matters." Lily came running and stopped in front of Alex, looking at him with curiosity. "Thank you for helping my mom, mister." "You're welcome, princess. What's your name?" "Lily, and yours?" "Alex, but you can call me Fred if you want." The girl smiled, revealing 2 little teeth that were coming in. "Uncle Fred, do you want to have dinner with us? Auntie Thompson made rice and beans." Emily turned red. "Lily, Mr. Johnson has important things to do." "Actually," said Alex, surprising himself, "I would love to have dinner with you, if it's not a bother." And there, in that simple house that still smelled of cleaning supplies, Alex Johnson had the best meal of his life. Sitting at a plastic table, eating rice and beans on a simple plate, talking to Lily about cartoons, and listening to Mrs. Thompson tell stories about the neighborhood. When he said goodbye, it was already night. Lily had fallen asleep in his lap, while Mrs. Thompson narrated the story of a brave princess. Emily watched him with an expression he couldn't decipher. "Thank you for everything you did today," she said, when they said goodbye at the door. "Thank you. It was the best day I've had in a long time." On the way back to Manhattan, Alex looked at himself in the rearview mirror and didn't recognize the man he saw. He was dirty, tired, with disheveled hair, but there was a different sparkle in his eyes. something he hadn't seen in years. For the first time in decades, he had done something that truly mattered. The weeks that followed the flood established a strange but comforting routine. Alex started to create increasingly elaborate excuses to visit the floors where Emily worked. Sometimes it was a safety inspection. Sometimes it was a quality check on services or a conversation with the supervisor about improvements in the work environment. Jake observed everything with growing suspicion. During a meeting about real estate investments in Queens, he caught Alex staring distractedly out the window, completely oblivious to the numbers being presented. "Mr. Duarte, would you like me to repeat the data for the Vista Verde residential project?" asked the broker, noticing the client's distraction. "Sorry, I was thinking about other matters. Please continue." But Alex couldn't concentrate. His mind was miles away, in a small house in Brooklyn, where a 6-year-old girl was likely doing her homework, while her mother prepared a simple dinner. After the meeting, Jake confronted him, directly. "Sir, may I ask you a personal question? That depends on the question. Are you seeing someone? Because your behavior has changed drastically in recent weeks." Alex stared at him coldly. "My personal life is not your business, Jake. With all due respect, when it interferes with business, it becomes my business. You've missed 3 important meetings, cancelled 2 contracts without explanation, and yesterday you spent 2 hours inspecting the cleaning system. That's not normal." "Normal for whom?" "For the man I've known for 8 years. The man who wouldn't waste a minute on minor operational issues." Alex stood up from his chair, walking to the window overlooking the city. "Maybe it's time to change some priorities." "Sir, if there's something I should know—" "There's nothing you should know, Jake. Just keep doing your job, and I'll take care of mine." But the truth was that Alex couldn't stop thinking about Emily. He had learned details about her through casual conversations, that she was studying education in the morning at a public university before getting pregnant, that Sophia's father had disappeared when he learned about the pregnancy, and that she dreamed of going back to school when her daughter was older. One morning, while she was organizing cleaning supplies in the basement storage, Alex appeared with 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might want a coffee," he said, offering one of the cups. Emily hesitated before accepting. "Thank you." They sat in silence for a few moments, drinking coffee in the makeshift environment. It was the first time they had truly been alone since the day of the flood. "Can I ask you something?" said Alex. "Sure." "Why don't you accept help? I mean financial help. It could be a loan, something formal." Emily sighed, looking at her, calloused hands. "Because I've learned that everything in life has a price, and I don't want to owe anything I can't pay back. Not even if it were to improve Sophia's life." The name of her daughter always struck a sensitive nerve. "Especially because of Sophia. I want her to learn that dignity is not negotiable." "Dignity?" Alex repeated the word as if he were tasting something new. "Can you teach me about that?" Emily looked at him in surprise. "Teach? Are you joking with me?" "I'm not. I've spent my whole life measuring everything by profit and loss. You've made me realize that there are things that can't be calculated that way." Before she could respond, Alex's phone rang. It was Jake with some corporate emergency that required immediate attention. As he rushed out, Emily stood there, trying to understand what was happening with that powerful man who seemed lost like a child. The following week, during one of his routine inspections, Alex noticed that Emily always carried a small notebook in her bag. One day, while she was cleaning the reception windows, the notebook fell to the floor and some pages scattered. "Let me get that," he said, bending down to pick up the papers. It was then that he saw pages and pages of careful handwriting, listing debts and amounts with mathematical precision. Mr. Nelson's Bakery, $23.50, bread on credit during the flood week, Central Pharmacy, $45 antibiotic for Sophia, Mrs. Thompson, 60 Sojas, watching Sophia during medical appointments, building cafeteria, $3.50, piece of birthday cake. Alex felt a tightness in his chest, seeing that even that small piece of dry cake was listed as a debt. Every cent was noted, every favor received had a value assigned and a planned payment date. "This is," he began. "My expense notebook," Emily said, quickly grabbing the papers back. "I don't like to owe anything to anyone. But that cake was a gift. Nothing is free in this world, Mr. Duarte. There's always someone paying for something." Alex fell silent, mentally flipping through all the times he had bought favors, influence, even affection. He had never met anyone who kept such a rigorous emotional accounting. What if I wanted to forgive all these debts? Forgive? Emily laughed, but it was a joyless laugh. With what money? You've already done so much for us. I won't accept charity. It wouldn't be charity. It would be what? Alex struggled to find words, how to explain that he wanted to take care of her and Sophia not out of pity, but for something much deeper and confusing, how to say that since that birthday party his life had become unbearably empty. It would be gratitude, he finally said. Gratitude for what? For showing me that I'm still capable of feeling something real. Emily remained quiet, studying his face. There was something in Alex's voice that she had never heard before, a raw vulnerability that didn't match the powerful businessman. "Do you have family?" she asked suddenly. "I do, or I did. My parents died 10 years ago. I have a brother in Los Angeles who only calls me when he needs money, and I've been married twice." What happened to the marriages? Alex hesitated. How to explain that both wives had left him for the same reason, his inability to connect emotionally with anyone? They found out that I was better with numbers than with feelings. With feelings. And now I'm trying to learn the difference between price and value. Emily put the notebook in her bag, but her expression had softened. "It's hard to unlearn a lifetime, Mr. Smith." "Alex," he corrected, "and yes, it's difficult, but maybe it's worth trying." That night, alone in his penthouse, Alex took out his own notebook, a leather-bound moleskin where he jotted down business ideas. He flipped through the pages, filled with numbers, profit projections, investment strategies. Then he took a pen and, on a blank page, wrote, "Things that have no price. The smile of Lily blowing out the candles. The dignity of Emily refusing favors. The feeling of doing something right. The peace of a simple meal shared. The honesty of someone who even notes $3.50 in the expense notebook." It was the first time in decades that he wrote something that couldn't be converted into profit. And for the first time, it felt worth more than all the contracts he had closed in his life. On the other side of the city, Emily was putting Lily to bed and sat at the small kitchen table with her expense notebook. But that night, instead of just noting amounts, she wrote something different. Alex Smith, strange man who cleans other people's homes and offers coffee in the storage room. Debt to find out why he treats me as if I were important. And for the first time in years, she couldn't calculate the value of that. June arrived with the characteristic cold of Brooklyn winter, but the community fair promised to warm hearts. For weeks, neighbors organized to transform the small neighborhood square into a true festival. Mrs. Thompson led the organizing committee with the energy of a general, coordinating who would bring what, who would be responsible for decorations, and who would take care of the music. "Emily, are you going to make your famous chicken fritters for the booth?" Mrs. White asked one afternoon, while they hung colorful banners between the trees. "Of course. Lily is so excited. She wants to help make everything." Emily replied, smiling as she watched her daughter playing with other kids, all dressed in traditional attire with cotton dresses and straw hats. The fair would be the following Saturday, and the whole community was involved. Mr. Johnson had lent the sound equipment from the church, Mrs. White would organize the games with the children, and even Mr. Brown, the grumpiest man on the street, had volunteered to make the main bonfire. On the other side of the city, Alex was observing the preparations for his penthouse through Google searches about community fairs. He had never participated in a genuine popular celebration. His experiences were limited to themed corporate events in five-star hotels, where executives wore Burberry plaid shirts and ate traditional foods prepared by French chefs. At the company, his obsession with discovering details about Emily's life had not gone unnoticed. Jake had intensified his discreet investigations and had already discovered her address, her daughter's age, even details about the upcoming community fair. "Mr. Smith," Jake said during a meeting about real estate expansion, "I have an interesting proposal. How about we participate as sponsors of the Brooklyn Community Fair? It would be an excellent social marketing opportunity." Alex almost choked on his coffee. "How did you find out about this fair?" "Market research, sir. It's important for us to know the communities where our employees live." It was a lie, of course. Jake had hired a private investigator to look into his boss's strange behavior. The answer had been surprising. Alex Smith, the coldest and most calculating businessman in New York City, was interested in a 29-year-old housekeeper living in a distant suburb. "I don't think it's necessary," Alex replied, trying to keep his voice neutral. "But it would be a great opportunity to—" "I said no, Jake." But all week, Alex couldn't stop thinking about the fair. He imagined Lily dancing, Emily laughing with the neighbors, the whole community celebrating together. And for the first time in decades, he desperately wanted to be part of something real, even if just for one night. On Thursday, he made an impulsive decision. He called Roberto, his personal driver, a simple man, in his 50s who had worked for him for 5 years. "Roberto, are you going to your neighborhood's fair?" "I am, Mr. Smith. It's always a lot of fun. I live in a neighborhood in Brooklyn, but my sister-in-law lives in the community. The whole family is going." "How do people dress for these fairs?" Roberto found the question strange, but answered, "Traditional attire, sir. Plaid shirt, jeans, straw hat. Nothing too fancy." Do you have an outfit like that I could borrow?" The silence on the other end of the line lasted a few seconds. "You want to go to a community fair?" "Maybe. Is it possible?" "Of course, sir. My wife will be happy. She always says you work too much." On Saturday night, Alex looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized himself. He wore a simple cotton plaid shirt, faded jeans, worn leather boots, and a straw hat. Roberto had insisted on painting some freckles on his face and making a fake mustache with paint. "Perfect, sir. Now you look like one of us," joked Roberto, proud of his work. The fair was already lively when Alex arrived. The smell of roasted corn, sweet corn pudding, hot spiced drink, and skewered meat filled the air. Colorful banners fluttered in the cold wind, country music played loudly, and dozens of people danced around the crackling bonfire in the center of the square. Lily was unrecognizable in a complete traditional outfit, a cotton dress with ruffles, braids with colorful ribbons, and painted freckles on her rosy cheeks. She ran back and forth with other kids, carrying banners and participating in games organized by Mrs. White. Emily was at the chicken fritter booth, wearing a plaid shirt that accentuated her brown eyes and a flowing cotton skirt. There was something different about her that night, a lightness. Alex had never seen such spontaneous joy. She laughed loudly at Mr. Smith's jokes, danced carefree with Lily, and participated in the square dance with the naturalness of someone who had grown up in that environment. Alex watched from a distance for almost an hour, fascinated. Here was a world where money, did not buy entry. One had to belong, be accepted, be part of a network of relationships built over the years through small gestures of solidarity. "Hey there, mister, you're not from around here, are you?" said a high-pitched voice. Alex turned and saw Lily standing next to him, looking at him with curiosity. His heart raced. Would he be recognized? "How do you know?" he asked, trying to disguise his voice. "Because I know everyone here. You look like a city guy." "And what does a city guy look like?" Lily laughed, revealing her little teeth that were still coming in. "A bit lost, a bit scared, but you seem nice. Want to dance with me?" Before he could respond, the girl had already taken his hand, leading him to the center of the circle where people were dancing animatedly. Alex found himself in the middle of an improvised dance circle, guided by Lily's natural movements, who laughed at his clumsiness with the steps. "Not like that, mister. Just follow the music," the girl instructed with the patience of a teacher. That was when Emily saw him. She stopped in the middle of a conversation with Mrs. Thompson, her eyes wide with surprise. Even with her face painted and wearing simple clothes, she immediately recognized those dark eyes and the elegant posture that she couldn't completely hide. Alex realized he had been discovered. For a moment, they stared at each other through the crowd dancing between them. He waited for her to confront him, to be upset by the invasion of privacy. But Emily did something unexpected. She smiled, a genuine smile, almost amused. "Mister, do you know my mom?" asked Lily, following his gaze. "I do. She works at the same place I do." "That's cool, Mommy!" shouted Lily, waving excitedly. "Come here! There's a guy here who works with you!" Emily approached slowly, still with that amused smile on her lips. "Good evening. I didn't expect to see you here. Good evening. I wanted to experience a real community fair. And are you enjoying it?" Alex looked around. Children running free, adults chatting animatedly, the delicious smell of homemade food, the music that made everyone dance without inhibition. "It's the best night of my life." The sincerity in his voice touched something in Emily's heart. "Want to try sweet corn pudding? Mrs. Thompson makes the best in the neighborhood." For the next 2 hours, Alex lived like he had never lived before. He ate corn on the cob, holding it with paper napkins, drank hot, spiced drink from an aluminum mug, learned to dance the folk dance, stepping on Mrs. Johnson's feet as she laughed at his clumsiness, and participated in the square dance as Lily's groom in a comedic ceremony that drew laughter from everyone. When the party began to wind down and families started to say their goodbyes, Lily was asleep in his lap while Emily gathered the things from the booth. "Can I take you home?" he offered softly, so as not to wake the girl. "No need. Mrs. Thompson already offered." "Please. It's the least I can do after such a special night." Emily hesitated, but seeing Lily so comfortable in the lap of that man who had disguised himself just to attend a neighborhood fair, her heart softened. "All right, but you'll have to explain this whole disguise." On the way home, with Lily sleeping in the back seat and Emily beside him, Alex tried to explain the inexplicable. "I've never been to a real party. I always thought they were just insignificant folk traditions. But you made me understand that there is a richness that cannot be bought. And what is that richness? Belonging, knowing that you are in part of something bigger than yourself." Emily was silent for a moment. "You belong to many things, Alex. Companies, clubs, social circles. No, I paid to attend those places. It's different from belonging." When they arrived at Emily's house, Alex carried Lily to her room while she opened the door. The girl stirred briefly when he laid her on the bed. "Uncle Fred," she murmured sleepily, "are you coming back to play with me?" "If your mom lets me." Lily looked at Emily with those sleepy but hopeful eyes. "Can he, Mommy? He knows how to dance the square dance." "Now." Emily kissed her forehead and whispered, "We'll see, Princess. Now sleep." At the door of the house, the two stood for a moment, unsure of how to say goodbye. "Thank you for this night," Emily finally said. "Lily loved having a dance partner, and I loved being that partner. Alex, why did you do all this? Why did you dress up and come here?" He looked at her with brutal honesty. "Because for the first time in 45 years, I wanted to be part of something real. And you two are the most real thing that has ever happened. In my life." Emily felt something stir in her chest, a sensation she hadn't experienced in years. "Good night, Alex." "Good night, Emily." As the car pulled away, she stood on the small porch watching the lights fade away. For the first time, she began to wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, there was something genuine behind all that seemingly inexplicable interest. And for the first time in years, the possibility didn't completely frighten her. The following Monday after the community fair arrived, charged with a strange tension in the air, Emily woke up earlier than usual, her heart racing for reasons she couldn't fully explain. The images of the previous night replayed in her mind. Alex dancing awkwardly with Lily, laughing at Mr. Smith's jokes, eating corn on the cob as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Mummy, why are you smiling?" asked Lily during breakfast, nibbling on a... Emily spread a slice of bread with butter on her plate. "I was remembering the party. You had a lot of fun, right?" "It was the best party of my life. Uncle Fred is so funny. He didn't know how to dance the country dance properly, but he tried really hard." Lily giggled, swinging her legs in the chair. "Is he coming back to play with me?" Emily felt a strange pang in her chest. "I don't know, sweetheart. He's a very busy person." "But he promised." "People sometimes promise things they can't keep." The response came out more bitter than she intended. Lily noticed the change in her mother's tone and fell silent, focusing on her morning coffee. In the Vista Lapa building, Alex arrived earlier than usual, but not for professional reasons. He wanted to see Emily, talk to her about the previous night, and better understand the new feeling that had emerged in his chest. For the first time in decades, he had experienced the sensation of belonging to something genuine. Jake was already in the office, organizing the day's schedule with his usual robotic efficiency. "Good morning, Mr. Duarte. You have a meeting with the Japanese investors at 9, lunch with Congressman Carvalho at noon, and—" "Jake," Alex interrupted, "I need to talk to you about something." "Yes, sir?" "I'm considering some changes in the company. Maybe it's time to implement more robust social programs for our employees." Jake frowned. "What kind of programs?" "Scholarships, childcare assistance, maybe even subsidized housing for families in vulnerable situations." "Sir, that would represent a significant investment with no direct financial return. The shareholders won't approve." "The shareholders approve what I decide is best for the company." Jake took notes silently, but his mind was racing. These sudden changes in his boss's behavior were clearly related to the cleaning lady from Brooklyn. It was time to act. In the basement of the building, Emily was organizing her cleaning supplies when Alex appeared with 2 cups of coffee, as had become customary in recent weeks. "Good morning," he said, offering one of the cups. "Good morning." Her voice came out more formal than usual. Alex noticed the change. "Is everything okay? You seem distant today." Emily took a sip of her coffee before responding. "I've been thinking about last night. And I think it was a mistake." The response caught Alex off guard. "Why?" "Because we're mixing things up. You're my boss and I'm your employee. There shouldn't be anything more than that." "But there is. You know there is." Emily looked at him with that brutal honesty that always disarmed him. What is there, Alex? A rich man enjoying the simple life of a poor employee? An anthropological curiosity? A social experiment? The words hit him like slaps to the face. You know it's not any of that. Do I? Then explain what it is. Alex fell silent, struggling to find words that could explain feelings he didn't fully understand himself. It's respect, admiration. You taught me things I didn't know I needed to learn. Like what? Like the value of small things. How to be genuine. How to care for someone without expecting anything in return. Emily felt something stir in her chest, but she fought against that feeling. Listen, Alex, you're a good man, I can see that, but we're from very different worlds, and I can't allow myself to forget that. Why not? Because I have a daughter to raise, and I can't set unrealistic expectations for her, or for myself. Before Alex could respond, his phone rang. It was Jake with some emergency that required immediate attention. As he left, Emily stood there, trying to convince herself that she had done the right thing. The week passed tense. Alex kept making excuses to see her, but Emily maintained a strict, professional distance. She responded only with "yes, sir" and "no, sir," avoided eye contact, and quickly ended any attempts at personal conversation. On Friday, the situation reached its limit. Emily was cleaning the reception windows when she received a call that changed everything. "Hello? Miss Johnson, this is Lily's school. You need to pick up your daughter urgently. She has a high fever and is vomiting." The phone slipped from Emily's trembling hands. Lily never got sick. She was a healthy, energetic child. The prospect of something serious happening to her daughter left Emily desperate. "Mr. Johnson," she called to the cleaning supervisor, "I need to leave now. It's an emergency." "Emily, you know you can't leave before your shift without—" "My daughter is sick." Her voice came out louder than she intended, drawing the attention of several people in the reception area. Alex, who happened to be passing by, heard everything. "What happened?" "Lily is sick. I need to pick her up from school and take her to the hospital." "I'll take you." "No." The response came automatically. "Thank you, but I'll take the bus." "Emily, your daughter is sick. This isn't the time for pride." She looked at him with tears in her eyes, all professional composure disappearing in the face of maternal despair. "It's not pride, it's self-preservation." But when she got to the bus stop and saw she would have to wait 20 minutes for the next bus while Lily was suffering, pride gave way to maternal love. She called Alex. "Can I still accept the ride?" "I'm coming down now." The ride to the school was tense. Lily was clearly very sick. High fever, pale skin, constant vomiting. The teacher explained that the symptoms had appeared suddenly during class. "We need to go to the hospital," Emily said, holding her daughter in her arms. "Public hospital?" Alex asked as he drove. "That's what I can afford." Alex knew the reality of the public health system. Long lines, hours of waiting, poor care. With a child so sick, every minute counted. "There's a private clinic nearby, immediate care." "Alex, I don't have money for—" "I do. I'm not accepting that." "For God's sake, Emily, your daughter is sick. This isn't the time to be stubborn." The argument continued until Lily, in her arms, whispered softly, "Mom, I'm really scared." At that moment, seeing her daughter's pale face and glassy eyes, Emily understood that there were things more important than pride. "It's okay. We're going to the private clinic." The service was immediate. Doctors, nurses, tests. Everything happened with an efficiency that only money could buy. The diagnosis came 2 hours later: bacterial pneumonia. Serious, but treatable with antibiotics and hospitalization. "How long will she need to stay?" Emily asked the doctor, already mentally calculating costs she couldn't afford. At least 5 days. And the total cost? The doctor hesitated. About $12,000. Emily felt the ground crumble beneath her feet. It was more money than she earned in an entire year. She looked at Lily, connected to the IV, breathing heavily, and knew she had no choice. "I'll pay," Alex said softly. "Alex, don't argue. Not now." That night, sitting by the bed where Lily was sedated, Emily opened her little notebook of debts again. With trembling hands, she wrote, "Alex Johnson, $12,000, Lily's medical treatment, a debt that will take a lifetime to pay off, but that saved my daughter's life." And for the first time, a debt in her notebook didn't just seem like a number, it felt like an act of love that she didn't know how to repay, but that forever changed the dynamic between them. Alex spent the entire night at the hospital, taking turns with Emily so she could rest. There was no financial calculation, business strategy, or ulterior motives. There was just a man who discovered that loving someone meant doing anything to protect those you love. And for the first time in his life, it didn't feel like a business transaction. It felt like the most natural thing in the world. 4 months passed since Lily's hospitalization. The girl had fully recovered, but the relationship between Emily and Alex had changed irreversibly. The $12,000 debt had created a strange bond between them. She felt eternally grateful, but terribly uncomfortable, while he discovered that helping without expecting anything in return was more rewarding than any deal he had ever closed. Emily insisted on signing a formal loan agreement with minimal interest and installments that fit her budget, even if it took years to pay off. Alex agreed, understanding that it was essential for her self-esteem. In the notebook, the debt gained its own page, with all the details meticulously noted. Their routine had settled into a strange normalcy. Alex continued to make excuses to see her during work, but now the conversations were more natural, less tense. She had stopped treating him just as a boss, but still maintained a cautious distance. "How was Lily's weekend?" he asked one Monday morning, finding her in the basement storage room. "She's doing well. Excited to show the math lesson she did. She solved problems that I don't even understand." The pride in Emily's voice was palpable. "She's really very smart. Have you thought about putting her in a specialized school?" Emily laughed without humor. "With what money? I can barely afford public school." "I could. Alex, no." The response came firm, but without aggression. "We did that once. We're not going to make it a habit." Alex nodded, but mentally he was already researching scholarships and educational programs that could benefit Lily without hurting her mother's pride. Jake observed this routine with growing concern. His private reports showed that Alex was spending less and less time in important meetings, delegating decisions he used to make personally and showing an unprecedented interest in social issues. The company remained profitable, but the CEO's posture was changing radically. "Mr. Johnson," Jake said during a meeting about expansion to Miami, "I need to alert you to something important." "What is it?" "Your public image. There are rumors circulating about your involvement with an employee." Alex froze. "What kind of rumors?" "Nothing confirmed yet, but people have noticed your change in behavior, and in a company of our size, any scandal can affect the business." "What people?" "Investors, competitors, specialized media. You know how it works. Any personal vulnerability becomes ammunition against the company." Alex stood up, walking to the window. "And what's your suggestion?" "Distance, total and immediate." "You're suggesting I fire Emily Johnson?" Jake hesitated. He was treading on dangerous ground, but believed he was protecting the company's interests. That would be the cleanest solution. "Get out of my office, Jake, now." "Sir, I'm just—" "Get out!" When he was alone, Alex felt a rage he hadn't experienced in years. The idea of someone using Emily as a weapon against him or harming her because of their closeness was unacceptable. But he knew Jake wasn't wrong about the risks. The business world was ruthless with any sign of vulnerability. That same afternoon, Lily was at the doctor's office for a routine checkup post-pneumonia. The pediatrician, Dr. Smith, was a 40-year-old man who had always treated the girl with special care since her hospitalization. "Lily, can you show me how you do multiplication?" the doctor asked, handing her paper and pencil. The girl quickly solved operations that were normally taught only in the 4th grade. The doctor exchanged meaningful glances with Emily. "Mrs. Johnson, can I speak with you privately?" In the hallway, Dr. Smith got straight to the point. "Lily shows clear signs of giftedness. Her IQ is well above average, exceptional reasoning ability. She would need specialized education. Doctor, I've already explained our financial situation. There are government programs, scholarships. I can help you research options." Emily felt her heart tighten. Once again, the reality of her financial limitations prevented her from offering the best for her daughter. On the way home, Lily asked, "Mum, did the doctor say I'm smart?" "He did, my love. You're very special." "Then why did you look sad?" Emily stopped in the middle of the sidewalk, bending down to be at her daughter's height. "I'm not sad, Princess, I'm proud. But sometimes what we want and what we can do are different things." Uncle Fred could help. The innocence of the observation made Emily laugh and cry at the same time. "Lily, Uncle Fred has already helped us a lot. We can't ask for anything more. But he likes us. I see it in his eyes." "How do you see that in his eyes? He looks just like you when he looks at me, all sparkly." The comparison left Emily speechless. A 6-year-old had noticed something she struggled to deny. On Thursday of that week, Jake made a unilateral decision. He called Mark Thompson, an investigative journalist known for exposing scandals involving businessmen. The conversation was carefully planned. "Mark, I have information that might interest you. Alex Thompson of Thompson Enterprises is having an inappropriate relationship with a cleaning lady." "What kind of relationship?" "He pays her daughter's medical bills, visits her house, shows up at suburban parties in disguise. The man has completely lost his sense of proportion." "Do you have proof?" "Photos, documents, witnesses, everything you need." Jake believed he was saving the company from a future scandal. He had no idea he was about to destroy the only genuine thing that had happened in Alex's life in decades. On Friday, the bomb exploded. The headline of the Times was devastating. "Millionaire businessman in suspicious relationship with cleaning lady." The article featured photos of Alex leaving Emily's house, details about Lily's medical expenses, speculation about favoritism, and even insinuations about harassment. Emily found out when she arrived at work. Colleagues whispered in the hallways. Some looked at her with pity, others with barely concealed envy. Her supervisor called her into the office before 8 in the morning. "Emily, have you seen the news?" She shook her head, genuinely confused. The supervisor showed her the newspaper. As she read, Emily felt the world collapse around her. There was her private life exposed, distorted, turned into a public scandal. The genuine friendship that had developed between her and Alex was being painted as something sordid and self-serving. "I'm going to have to suspend you until this gets resolved," the supervisor said, clearly uncomfortable. "It's orders from management." "Suspend? Why? I didn't do anything wrong." "Emily, you know how it is. As long as there's this exposure in the media, your presence here could be complicated." Emily felt the ground slip away beneath her feet. Without a job, she wouldn't be able to pay even the basic needs for Lily. The debt with Alex, which already weighed on her conscience, now seemed impossible to settle. For how long? Until the situation normalizes. On the upper floor, Alex was in his office dealing with a complete crisis. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Journalists, worried investors, board members demanding explanations. Jake was trying to take control of the situation with an efficiency that bordered on cynicism. "Mr. Thompson, we need an official statement. I suggest you deny any inappropriate relationship and—" "Where is she?" Alex interrupted. "Who?" "Emily. Where is she?" "She was temporarily suspended. It was the most sensible measure to—" Alex stood up so violently that he knocked over his chair. "Did you do this?" "It was necessary to protect the company." "Protect the company? You destroyed the life of an innocent woman." "Sir, please, get out of my office. You're fired. Mr. Thompson, you're making an emotional decision that could— Get out before I do something I'll regret." When he was alone, Alex sat in the armchair with his head in his hands. His attempt to find something genuine in life had turned into a nightmare that was hurting exactly the person he wanted to protect. He picked up the phone and called Emily. She answered on the third ring. "Alex." Her voice was heavy with sadness and resignation. "Emily, I'm so sorry. I swear I didn't know this was going to happen." "I know, but it happened." "I'll fix this. I'll give an interview clarifying everything. I'll sue the newspaper for defamation. Don't do any of that." "What do you mean?" "Anything you do now will only make it worse, for me and for Lily. But you were suspended because of something that doesn't even exist." Emily was quiet for a moment. "Is it really non-existent, Alex?" The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean? Are the journalists completely wrong? Is there really nothing between us?" Alex struggled to find words, but for the first time he had to face the truth he had been denying for months. "Emily, that's what I thought. Goodbye, Alex." The call ended, leaving him alone with a truth he could no longer deny. He was in love with Emily Johnson, and that love had just destroyed her life. 3 weeks passed since the media scandal. The buzz had considerably diminished. Other political and business scandals soon took the headlines, relegating the cleaning lady case to a footnote in tabloid newspapers. But for Emily, those 3 weeks felt like 3 years. Without a job and with little savings, she had been forced to accept sporadic cleaning jobs in private homes. Mrs. Thompson took care of Lily during the day, but the financial situation was becoming desperate. The debt payment to Alex, which had once fit tightly in the budget, was now impossible to honor. "Mommy, why are you always sad now?" Lily asked one Thursday afternoon while playing with some old toys in the yard. "I'm not sad, my love, just tired," Emily lied, pretending to organize clothes on the line. "Is it because of Uncle Fred? Did you fight with him?" Emily stopped hanging the clothes. During those 3 weeks, Lily had asked about Alex dozens of times. It was hard to explain to a 6-year-old why someone who seemed to care so much about them had simply disappeared. "We didn't fight, Princess. It's just that different people sometimes need to go their separate ways." "But I liked him. He taught me how to play checkers and promised he would teach me chess." Emily's heart tightened. Emily had genuinely grown fond of Alex, and now yet another male figure was disappearing from her life. It was a pattern that she knew all too well. On the other side of the city, Alex was immersed in endless meetings, trying to manage the fallout from the scandal. He had fired Jake and personally taken over crisis management, but his mind was constantly in Brooklyn, wondering how Emily and Lily were coping. He had tried calling several times, but Emily didn't answer. He passed by her house twice, but didn't have the courage to knock on the door. What could he say? That he was sorry, that he hadn't foreseen the consequences, that he was in love with her, but that this love had destroyed her life. It was during one of these furtive visits that he saw her at the bus stop, wearing simple clothes and carrying cleaning supplies. She was clearly heading to some temporary job, and the image of that dignified woman being forced to start over because of him was like a dagger to his heart. On Friday of that week, when Emily was returning from another long day of work cleaning a house in Manhattan, she encountered a scene that completely changed the course of her life. A man was standing in front of her house, animatedly talking to Lily at the gate. He was tall, dark-haired, with a smile she recognized perfectly even after 7 years. Andrew Smith, Lily's biological father. "Hello, Emily," he said when he saw her approaching, using that tone of voice that had always managed to disarm her defenses in the past. "Andrew." Emily's voice came out as cold as ice. "What are you doing here?" "Mummy, this man said he's my daddy," shouted Lily, running to hug Emily. "Is that true?" Emily looked at her daughter, then at Andrew, feeling a mix of anger, fear, and maternal protection that made her body tremble. "Lily, go play inside with Aunt Mrs. Thompson. Now." "But, Mommy, now, Lily!" The girl obeyed but peeked through the window. Emily waited until she was sure her daughter was out of earshot. "You have a very beautiful daughter," Andrew said with that smile that used to make her melt. "She looks like me, don't you think? Don't you dare show up here after 7 years and talk about my daughter as if she were yours. Technically, she is mine, biologically speaking. Technically, you disappeared when you found out I was pregnant. Biologically speaking, you are just a sperm donor." Andrew laughed, but there was a hardness in his eyes that Emily didn't remember. "Wow, you've become bitter, Emily. 7 years have changed you. 7 years of raising a daughter alone have indeed changed me. What do you want, Andrew?" "I want to meet my daughter. I want to be part of her life." "Why? Why now?" Andrew hesitated for a fraction of a second, but Emily noticed. "Because I've matured. Because I understand that a man has responsibilities." "Matured where? Doing what? With whom?" "I've been in Los Angeles, working, studying, preparing to be a real father." It was a lie. Emily knew Andrew too well not to realize when he was making up a story, but before she could question him further, Mrs. Thompson appeared at the door. "Emily, there's a very nice car parked over there on the corner. It looks like someone is watching us." Emily turned and saw Alex's luxury SUV parked a few blocks away. Even from a distance, she could see his silhouette in the driver's seat. "Who is that?" Andrew asked, following her gaze. "Nobody important." Interesting." Andrew smiled in a way that Emily didn't like. "Well, back to the matter at hand. I want to establish a visitation schedule with Lily. Maybe some weekends, a few afternoons." "No. Emily, I'm her father. I have rights." "Rights? What rights? Did you sign the birth certificate? Did you pay child support? Were you present at any moment in her life?" "I can fix that now. You can't fix 7 years of abandonment." Andrew stepped closer, lowering his voice to something more intimate and manipulative. "Emily, I know I hurt you. I know I was immature. But look at you now, working as a cleaning lady, living in this little house. Don't you think Lily deserves more? Lily has everything she needs. Does she? Private school, health insurance, nice clothes, vacations, opportunities." Each word was a precise jab at Emily's most vulnerable points. She has love. She has dignity. She has a mother who has never abandoned her. Does she really? Because from what I saw in the newspapers, you've been involved with rich men. Maybe that's not the best example for a child." Emily froze. "How did you know about the newspapers?" "Everyone knows, Emily. It was a national scandal. Millionaire businessman and the cleaning lady. Very uplifting for your daughter." The anger that overtook Emily was so intense that she had to hold herself back from hitting him. "Get out, now!" "I'm not leaving, and you know why? Because now I have a lawyer, and my lawyer told me that I can go to court to secure my parental rights. What lawyer? With what money? Andrew smiled, and this time there was genuine malice in his expression. Let's just say a benefactor has appeared, interested in helping a father reconnect with his daughter. Emily understood immediately. Someone was backing Andrew, someone who had an interest in complicating her life even further. Who? That doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm going to fight for joint custody of Lily. And considering your recent circumstances, I think I have a good chance. Lily doesn't even know you exist. Then you'd better start preparing her, because I'm going to be a constant presence in both your lives from now on. Andrew stepped back, but before getting into the waiting taxi, he shouted loud enough for Lily to hear, "Bye, sweetheart. Daddy will be back soon to see you." Emily stood frozen on the sidewalk, trembling with rage and fear. Across the street, she saw Alex get out of the car and walk toward her. "No," she said as he approached. "Not now. Emily, I saw everything. Who was that man?" "The father of Lily. But you said he had disappeared, and now he's back." Emily glared at him with tears of anger in her eyes. "And do you know why he came back?" "Alex, because of those damn newspaper articles. Now everyone knows there's a wealthy businessman interested in us, and men like Mark would jump at the opportunity from miles away." Alex felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. "Emily, you destroyed our lives. Twice. First with the media exposure, now bringing that man back. How can I help?" "You can't. You've already helped too much." Emily stormed into the house, slamming the door. Alex stood there, finally understanding the true magnitude of the damage his presence had caused in their lives. "On the other side of the door," Lily asked, "Mommy, is that man really my daddy?" Emily knelt down, holding her daughter's face in her hands. "Lily, my love, we need to have a very important conversation, and you need to promise me that you will tell me everything that man says to you, okay? Is he bad?" Emily looked into her daughter's innocent eyes and knew she was about to enter the most important fight of her life. "I don't know yet, Princess, but we will find out together." That night, while Lily slept, Emily dialed a number she hadn't called in years. Her sister Rachel, a lawyer in New Jersey. "Rachel, it's me, Emily. I need your help. It's about Lily." And for the first time in years, Emily Johnson had to admit that she couldn't fight alone. Rachel's law office was located in downtown New Jersey, in a modest office on the 5th floor of a commercial building that had seen better days. The two sisters hadn't seen each other in almost 2 years, since the last Christmas when Emily had managed to pay for the ferry ticket to visit the family. Rachel, 3 years older, had graduated from law school through much sacrifice and primarily worked on family law and labor rights cases. When Emily called the night before, explaining the situation with Mark, she immediately cancelled her morning appointments. "Tell me everything from the beginning," Rachel said, grabbing paper and pen while watching her sister with concern. Emily looked visibly worn, deep circles under her eyes, hands trembling slightly, that tense posture of someone who hadn't slept properly in days. Emily recounted the entire story, the tumultuous relationship with Mark 8 years ago, his disappearance when he learned of the pregnancy, the 7 years raising Lily alone, Alex's appearance in their lives, the media scandal, and now Mark's sudden return with legal threats. "He said he has a lawyer and that he's going to court for joint custody," Emily finished, her voice choked. Rachel took notes silently before responding. "Legally, he does have paternal rights, yes. Even having abandoned the child, the law is quite clear about that. But there are some factors in our favor." "What factors?" "First, emotional and material abandonment for 7 years. That weighs heavily against him. Second, Lily already has an established routine, strong emotional bonds with you and the community where she lives. Third, any drastic change could be considered harmful to the child's well-being. And the negatives? Rachel hesitated. The media exposure doesn't help. They could argue that you don't provide a stable environment. And if he really has financial resources now, he could argue that he can offer better material conditions. Emily felt the world crashing down again. How much is this fight going to cost? Emily, I'm your sister. I won't charge you fees. But there are court costs, psychological evaluations, possible social studies, around $3,000 at least. It was money Emily didn't have. With the irregular work of the past few weeks, she could barely cover the basic bills of the house. I'll figure it out, she said, trying to maintain her composure. How? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. That afternoon, back in Brooklyn, Emily found Lily playing in the yard with Mrs. Thompson. The girl ran to hug her as she always did, but this time there was something different in her eyes. Mommy, Auntie Thompson said that man from yesterday is really my dad. Emily shot a disapproving look at the neighbor, who immediately defended herself. Emily, the girl kept asking all day. I couldn't lie to her. Lily, come here. We need to talk. Emily sat on the porch step, pulling her daughter into her lap. It's true that man is your biological father, but do you know what that means? That he made me in your belly? That's right. But being a father is much more than that, my love. Being a father is caring, protecting, being present, teaching, loving every day. And he didn't do that? No. He left when he found out you were going to be born. Lily was quiet for a moment, processing the information with a seriousness that only children can have. And now he wants to be my dad. He says he does. And do you believe him? The question caught Emily off guard. Lily had always been a perceptive child, but that maturity was frightening for a 6-year-old. I don't know, Princess. That's why we need to be very careful. Mommy? What is it? Did Uncle Fred disappear because of this? Emily felt her heart tighten. No, my love. Uncle Fred had to sort out some things in his life, but he liked us. I think he did. Then, why doesn't he come back? How to explain to a 6-year-old the complexities of social class, economic differences, media exposure, and the unintended consequences of love? How to say that sometimes people distance themselves precisely because they care? Sometimes, Lily, when people care for each other a lot, they need to stay away to avoid hurting each other. That's silly, declared Lily with the unyielding logic of childhood. If you love someone, you stay together. If you don't love them, you leave. Simple. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Emily sat at the table, in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and her notebook of doubts. She calculated and recalculated the bills, trying to find a way to gather the money for the upcoming legal battle. There was none. That's when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Emily, it's Marcia from the building cafe. Hi, Marcia. How did you get my number? I asked Silvana from HR. Listen, can I tell you something? Sure. That boss of yours, Mr. Thompson, he's been coming here every day. He buys coffee and sits at a table, staring at the elevator as if he's waiting for someone. Emily, who closed her eyes. And? Today he asked me about you, how you were doing, if I knew if you had found another job. He seemed sad. Marcia, why are you telling me this? Because in 20 years working in this building, I've never seen a boss truly care about an employee, and that man is clearly suffering. After hanging up, Emily stared at the phone for a long time. A part of her wanted to call Alex, tell him about Mark, ask for help, vent. But her rational mind knew that involving him again would only complicate things further. The key. Next day, Saturday, Mark showed up in the morning with a gift, an expensive doll, still in its original packaging. For my princess, he said with that rehearsed smile. Lily took the doll with curiosity, but without the enthusiasm Mark expected. Thank you. How about we go get ice cream? Just you and me, so we can get to know each other better. No, Emily intervened immediately. Not yet. Emily, I'm her father. I have a right. You have no rights until the court says otherwise. Mark smiled coldly. Speaking of court, my lawyer said the case is already being prepared. Joint custody, back support, visitation regulations, the whole package. Back support. 7 years, with interest and adjustments, about $150,000, according to the calculations. Emily nearly fainted. It was more money than she would earn in 10 lifetimes. You're crazy. I don't have that kind of money. Oh, but you have rich friends, right? I saw it in the papers. The insinuation was like a slap in the face. Emily finally understood the game. Mark didn't want Lily. He wanted money. And he had discovered that she had a connection, albeit a troubled one, with a millionaire businessman. Get out of my house now. Calm down, Emily. No need to get upset. We can resolve this civilly. Get out! Mark stepped back, but before leaving, he bent down to Lily's level. Sweetheart, Daddy will be back soon to pick you up, okay? We're going to live in a big house with a pool, toys. I don't want that, Lily said simply. Mark looked genuinely surprised. You don't want what? To live with you. I like my house. I like Mrs. Thompson, Mr. Smith, my school, and I like my mom. But sweetheart, Daddy can give you, and things that your mom can't. I don't want your things. The firmness in the voice of a 6-year-old made Mark clearly uncomfortable. He stood up, shot an angry look at Emily, and left. That afternoon, while Lily played with the neighborhood kids, completely ignoring the expensive doll Mark had brought, Emily made the hardest decision of her life. She picked up the phone and dialed a number she knew by heart, but hadn't called in weeks. Alex, it's me, Emily. We need to talk. On the other end of the line, the relief in his voice was palpable. Emily, where do you want to meet? Here at my place, tonight after Lily goes to bed. And Alex? Yes? Come prepared to hear some truths you won't like. That night, when Alex parked on the familiar street in Brooklyn, he knew his life was about to change again. But this time, he was determined to make the right choices, even if it meant sacrificing everything he had built, because he had finally understood the difference between price and value. And Emily and Lily were worth more than all the money in the world. If you liked this, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and if you watched until here, comment I watched until here, and leave your opinion about this story. Oh, and don't forget to watch the next video that appears on the final screen. It's going to be very exciting.